what? It's what? Welcome to What's What with Old Man Liver. And today, as our guest on our ongoing business reality podcast, I've got Chad Slagle, the co-founder and senior VP of product innovation at Two Trees Beverage Company. Welcome, Chad.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. And for those that don't know, Two Trees Distillery is the one that has created the masterpiece of Old Man Liver American whiskey, now going on about 6 years ago or so. And more recently, we released the Wasteland whiskey, which is actually straight bourbon, and a vodka called Nuclear Liquid, which we'll talk about shortly. But first, I just wanted to get into, I don't even know your full personal history and how you got into this business and how Two Trees was started. Can you give us a little bit of your background and how you even got into this industry?
Yeah, I'll go back to so I've always been an entrepreneur at heart. I was living in California, launched my own fitness product, came back here to North Carolina where I'm from, decided to do a reset before going back, and met my now wife and said, I'm staying here. Now I want to do something fun here. What can I do here? So I was in the tech side, in the technology world, web tech. Got reconnected with one of my old buddies from high school who was in the wood industry and in the adhesive industry. And we started working on a project together, playing around. And this project involved white oak. And we're like, oh, sitting around drinking some drinks one day and like, what else could we do with white oak if we've come up with, if we're using this technology for this, what could we do? And the idea like popped into that, like, okay, what if we could find a way to extract a little bit faster with some more nuances in wood? Those barrels are made out of white oak. So that's what started this long journey of working out of the basements, blowing things up. We were at this old airport hangar, like exploding things because we didn't know what we were doing.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, and the only alcohol we could get to age at the time and play around with was like moonshine. You're out in the woods, talking to these guys like, hey man, can I get 20 gallons of moonshine? So
well, that's your neck of the woods. That's sort of what y'all are known for, right?
That is true. I didn't know I didn't know it was so easy to find the people, I didn't know you just go down to any kind of gas station that has a bait shop. Well, apparently if they sell bait, somebody in here knows where to make moonshine. So apparently if you're ever looking for it, that's how you can find it. So
that's
we got into that. We made a prototype that worked, made our first machine, and had it at a facility here in Asheville, a different distillery where we were getting real alcohol, not moonshine.
Yeah, and this is Asheville, North Carolina for everybody.
Correct. Yep.
Yep.
And that was, we put the first machine in place 2015. So I've been doing this about 11 years now. The opportunity came up for us to move into this facility. We're in now, Two Trees Distilling Company. Part of the reason I wanted this building is it's on a different water line. So one amazing thing about, you got to think about your product, anybody's product is water. And we are in the water line that we have comes from the Pisgah National Forest, which is where the cradle of forestry started by the Vanderbilt family when they built the Biltmore estate here. That was part of their property and their legacy. So I wanted, and the reason I knew this water was good is we're 3 miles down the road from Sierra Nevada. And I know that they did their due diligence before they put their first East Coast facility. So we're just, okay, this is where they're doing it. This is where we're going to do it. So yeah,
so the water does matter with the overall taste and quality.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does, for sure.
Interesting. So like for some, so you got into, did you get into it to do a specific type of spirit, or you just wanted to do everything or see what you could do with wood and what you could create and ferment and shit?
The first one was, it was our accelerated technology where we extract more out of the wood, tune the wood, so to speak, specifically, and age it quicker. So the first one we ever took to market was, Tim Smith from the Moonshiners TV show on Discovery Channel. So we ended up with him, and his Climax wood-fired whiskey would be his first aged product. So I was working on that recipe for a while, came up with that recipe, and boom, here we go. Here it is aged. Well, let's enter in a contest and see what we can do. Okay, well, There's not any awards that have like a 24-hour aged whiskey. So how does how does that work? So the closest one we could get was a single barrel American whiskey under 10 years old, and that was at the SIP Awards, which is in Southern California. And the great thing about the SIP Awards is it's driven by not like bourbon enthusiasts or whatever. It's just normal people that say, "Hey, I know this category. I know what tastes good and what doesn't." And they don't know anything about the product. They base it on color and taste. So we entered, and we ended up winning platinum best of class over Chicken Cock's 160th anniversary, like 8 year. So we beat an 8 year with a 24-hour old. Like, whoa, we're on to something here. So, and that was the product that
That's
kind of
amazing.
launched us into it, and then we that was in 2016, early 2016. We moved into this building in 2018. And then that's when I started developing out all of our flavored products and several of our bourbons. And then you guys came along shortly after that. Was it 2019 when
Yeah.
we met? It was before COVID, so
It had to
it
be
had to
close
be.
because, and for people that haven't heard the story, my old lady, Mama Tess, is the one that was like seeing me do promo shots holding like a bottle of Jack Daniels or some other brand going, "Hey, why are you promoting someone else's whiskey when you're a whiskey lover? Why don't you have your own?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Like, she's like, "Give me 3 months. I'll find a distiller somewhere in the country that will work with you to get the exact flavor profile you want, the exact proof, so on and so forth." I'm like, you're out of your mind. Sure as shit. 3 months later, if she didn't come back to me and go, Two Trees out of Fletcher, North Carolina is willing to work with you. And I'm like, you're kidding me. And then, of course, if you remember, COVID hit and we were mailing stuff, formulas back and forth for like a year until we got the exact flavor profile, which we were going for oaky, smoky, and just a tiny bit spicy. And then I wanted to raise the proof from 80 to 90 so I could joke around. I'm not really joking, but you'll get, more bang for your buck with Old Man Liver than a lot of the other whiskeys. And somehow you pulled that proof up without damaging the flavor, the smoothness going down. And I don't even know how that's done. I'm sure it's proprietary, but it was phenomenal what you created over that year. And then I got my 10 snobbiest whiskey friends to come together and taste test the top formulas, and overwhelmingly the formula that became Old Man Liver American Whiskey, the original, was the one everyone voted on, and that's the one that exists to this day and is now in several states available for sale, and 30 different states that it can be shipped to. So if you're in California, New York, Florida, Nevada, North Carolina, West Virginia, uh, Washington, D.C., New Jersey, or Pennsylvania, you can actually, we have distribution there. You still have to tell your bar that you want it, and they have to go find the distributor for that state, but at least we have individual distributors in those states. Everywhere else, most of the states in the U.S. will let you ship it to your home or office, which we ship out of goodspringsgeneralstore.com. So I just wanted to cover that, but because this goes back 6 years, and it's interesting. You have to go. I didn't, thank God I didn't know how hard this industry was when I met you, or I might not have done it, because you do have to go state by state, and all the laws date back to prohibition, and they're all ridiculous, and you have to go through distributors because that's how the state get their tax money and all this crazy stuff. And every state is different. It's kind of like how marijuana is rolling out around the country right now. Every state has different rules on it, and you've got to finesse each one. So it's a way more ambitious and complicated than I meant. But now I'm very happy I did it, because the stuff that you have helped work with me to create has been phenomenal. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And I want to go on. Another revelation I had was when we finally got to meet you in person and tour the distillery, and you told me you were literally making whiskeys out of celebrities' guitar necks and things like that. And I had no idea you could break down wood on that level and ferment with it and distill and char it and distill within it. And that blew my mind. And that's when it was like, ding, what if we could you do pieces of the actual Pioneer Saloon? And you're like, hell yeah, I could do that. Because I'm like, then someone can literally consume the saloon, and we'll use water from Good Springs, which we did for the Wasteland whiskey and the nuclear vodka vodka, and that'll have a special connotation to saloon enthusiasts and Fallout fans, which are a big. I'm part of the community after starting to throw these annual celebrations, which we call Mojave Mayhem on the West Coast and Wasteland Jamboree on the East Coast. And so amazingly, Chad was willing to work with me to create 2 more spirits that we could offer, and both catering to fans of the post-apocalyptic worlds, not just Fallout, but there's a lot of different genres that it covers, and people seem to get a kick out of it. But I know the Wasteland whiskey is different than the American whiskey because it's an actual straight Kentucky bourbon, correct?
Correct. And so that, yeah, considers if you look at Old Man Liver, it's a blend of bourbon and American whiskey. And then the Wasteland whiskey is a totally different beast. I won't get into the exact mash bill, but it's a high rye, which does really well after a couple of years of aging. So, for it to be considered straight, of course, it has to be at least 2 years old. So this one is a Kentucky straight, and then we take it and do the finishing aging on it in the machine. So,
okay. So does it have to be a bourbon? It's got to be created in Kentucky and Bourbon County?
No. So the qualifications for bourbon are really, think about it, has to be at least 51% corn as the mash bill. Then it can't be distilled at more than 160 proof. Over 160 proof, it goes into the whiskey category. So under 160 proof, it can't be aged at over 125 proof, and that's a new American white oak. So there's some laws, and then of course, if you're going to say straight, it has to be aged at least 2 years, and then if you want to say straight Kentucky, then it has to be aged those 2 years in Kentucky. And then you get on to like something that's older. If it's 4 years or older, you don't have to put an age statement on it at all.
Gotcha.
That's the quick rundown.
So it's actually aged in Kentucky, but then finished in North Carolina. Is that right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So for the Wasteland whiskey, it sounds like between Nevada, North Carolina, and Kentucky, there's like 3 different states involved.
Yep. And water from 2 states. So, the Good Springs water mixed with this water I'm talking about as well. So,
Yeah. So the Appalachia water, what state is that from technically?
Right here in North Carolina.
North Carolina as well. Okay. Yep. So that's kind of fun. So it's like multiple states coming together for the whole process to make it a legit straight bourbon, which is really fun, but with the extra Nevada connotation to it. And so that's exciting. And what was most exciting is when you sent me the first bottle, and I was like, it had been so long since I taste tested. I was like, I hope I still liked it. And it blew my mind. And people have come to me and go like, that's literally the best bourbon I've ever had in my life. And these are people that would be really straight with me. And like, I'm more apt to be negative than positive. And they're literally telling me like, that's their favorite bourbon they've ever drank of any amount of money or cost, which I have to credit you. Like it's phenomenal. And then, we did this, we call it the nuclear liquid, but it's really a vodka. We just can't legally say vodka because we added a little tinge of green to it to make it look radiated. So if you uplight
wait, color. I wasn't supposed to use radiation in that.
Oh shit. Y'all do have some nuclear reactors out there you can use, right? So was that part of the process? No. So yeah, it's really cool. And then from my understanding, vodka can be made of potatoes or corn. Is that right?
It can be made of grapes. It can be made of corn. It can be made of potatoes. It can be made of wheat. There's somebody doing a rice one right now. This one is 100% corn. Your base. It's easy to work with. It came out really, really clean. And another, you got to think about how important the water is. Well, think about it this way: let's say you produce a bourbon, and you take it off the still at say 150 proof, and then you bring it down to 125 proof to put it in a bottle or to a barrel, and then you bring it down again to say 90 proof into the barrel. You're still adding a good amount of water, but when it comes to a vodka, it has to come off at such a high distillation point. That's why it's considered a grain neutral spirit, which means for it to be considered a grain neutral spirit, if you smell it, taste it, whatever, it's at high proof, you shouldn't be able to tell what grain it was made from. That's why it's grain neutral. So you take that from 190 proof plus down to 80 proof. That's mostly water. So if you could have the best grain, you could have the best distilling process, the best equipment, the best system, the best distiller, and still over half of your volume is water. If you do not have the right water, it's not going to come out right. So that's why we wanted to use, we use our water, and I found a really good blending ratio with your Good Springs water and this Appalachian water, and then through another RO process. So
yeah, you must have found the perfect blend, because all the taste testing we've done so far, people have come to me, they're like, I can't drink vodka straight, but I can drink your vodka straight. Yeah. I was like, well, thank you. That's because that's how I feel. I'm not, I generally don't drink vodka just on its own, but with the Old Man Liver nuclear liquid vodka, I can literally just sip on it as is, and that's unusual for me and a lot of people. It's that good, but it's still, to me, it's kind of in the way Tito's has a good flavor to it, but it's not so far. I know vodka on some level, pure vodka, it's supposed to be flavorless because you want to be able to adapt to whatever you're mixing it in and not notice it. And to me, this is the perfect combination. When I've had it mixed with orange juice or other drinks, it enhances the flavor. And but if I just have it by itself, it's good on its own, which is phenomenal. I couldn't have come out more amazing. So,
and it makes for some interesting. It makes for some interesting colors, like putting cranberry in the green. I was like, what? I hadn't thought about.
Oh yeah, we've begun to experiment. Yeah, the stuff we can do with the coloring is we're just starting to experiment, and I think some fans out there have created their own things with them, and Bloody Mary versions with the green vodka. It's crazy. It's a fun, but it's not just a novelty. It is good, and people, everyone that I know that's tried it has enjoyed it. If they're a vodka drinker. But I would have never thought about how important the water is either. I just wanted to use like Good Springs water to have that tie into the Pioneer Saloon and the Las Vegas base of the brand. But most people, I think, don't even think about when they're drinking how important the water aspect is to it.
Yeah, it's a lot of people don't even think about the wood and the material that ages their spirits. But you got to think in a whiskey or a brown spirit, 65 to 75% of the flavor comes from that process in the barrel, not what you put in the barrel. So, that's why yours tastes a little different than everybody else, because we get to tune the wood. It's not just here's one of 5 cooperages in the country. Everybody's buying the same barrels. You just have a different product to go in. Okay, well then 25% of your product is different. 75% of it's going to be like everybody else's. That's why so many taste the same. That's how we get to tune yours and say, no, let's do something a little different that no one else has tried. So,
yeah, I remember literally chopping off mesquite branches from the saloon and pieces of wood from the walls and putting it in boxes with water, trying to send it to you, which was comical. I wish I had video of my first efforts where the branches were poking in the water bags and spilling everywhere. And I was like, this got to be hilarious from a third party point of view, me trying to package water and sticks. But it worked out, and you made some magical stuff with it. And I'm excited because we're going to do, we just got in North Carolina, which is ironic because that's where we've been creating the whiskey for years, but we weren't legal for distribution in the state, which, as I was explaining to you, the laws are asinine on all this stuff. And that's why even at my own bar, I couldn't serve my own whiskey for the first 6 months because we didn't have a distributor in the state yet. But don't get me started on that.
Yeah. I remember those conversations. So.
Yeah, boy, that was frustrating. Chad, I want to thank you for being on the show and explaining more. I learned more about the distilling process every time I talk to you, and thanks for working with me over the years to get the flavor that we've gotten, and I'm really happy with everything. And as I tell people as I go around, I'm like, hey, Jack Daniels and Jim Beam, Evan Williams, they're all dead. Old man, I'm still alive. So help me out. Like, eat, consume Good Springs. That's all I got to say. Thanks for being on the show. This is Old Man Liver. Woo-da! It's what? It's what?